Hello everybody, today we are going to discuss our Casuarina tree by Toru Dutt, who has been a very famous Indian English poet who travelled abroad at a very early age, studied in France and England, and then later returned to India, Calcutta. There she took to learning Sanskrit as well, and died at a very early age, or we can say she had a very short lifespan of 21 years. But even in that short lifespan, even in those 21 years, she achieved international fame and international reputation, and today her works, her poems are studied in UG and PG courses. Some of her works which actually brought international fame to her, they were ancient ballads and legends of Hindustan, a sheaf gleaned in French fields, and among these some lyrics like Lakshman Sita are very famous lyrics which are taught in UG and PG courses in India and abroad. So though had a very short life, but the poems are really of very we can say of quite high or say the poem have some substance in them. They have really some concrete values in them, and that is the reason that she has become immortal in the firmament of Indian English poets, or we can say in the literary field she has become immortal. She will ever be remembered for her great works. So today we are going to discuss this poem, Our Casuarina Tree, and this poem is an objective description. It entails an objective description of this poem, Our Casuarina Tree, and though there is an objective description, yet the poem is quite subjective as well, personal as well, because though she is telling us about the tree, she is describing, there is a pictorial description of the tree, images are really, we can say, quite picturesque here. Visual imagery is really very beautiful, but just apart from that visual imagery or objective description, the poem is actually about her past, her relation with her brother Abju and sister Aru, whom she lost earlier or at a very early stage of her life. Though, as I said, she also lived only for 21 years, but her brother and sister died even before that at a very younger age than she herself died. So this loss was there forever in her mind. The memories were there forever in her mind, and she always remembered her brother and sister and the days she spent with them there in Calcutta around that Casuarina tree. So the Casuarina tree, whenever she thinks of that tree, this Casuarina tree comes up with the images of her brother and sister, the time she used to play under the tree with her brother and sister, and how they were quite happy there when they were in Calcutta, how they used to play under the tree. So there is a touch of reminiscence here. The poem is about nostalgia. She is quite nostalgic when she is thinking about her past days. So this tree is a connecting link. It acts as a connecting link between the poet and her brother and sister, the poet and her past, and she wishes to immortalize this tree through her poem, just as Wordsworth did for the trees of Borrowdale. Similarly, she feels that her poem would definitely immortalize the tree, and perhaps she has attained what she wished through this poem. It comes out so. Let's see how she has done all this. It's really very beautiful. The poem has a very beautiful rhyme and rhythm. Everything has been arranged in a very musical manner that anybody can sing this poem through, and the imageries, like she actually was quite influenced by the romantic poets, so there was an influence of John Keats and other such poets. So we can see that this poem as well has, or it is suffused with sensuousness and the other qualities of romantic age and romantic poetry. So let's see how she has done all this here. Like a huge python, like a huge python winding round and round, the rugged trunk indented deep with scars. So the poet is describing the tree, this Casuarina tree, and around this tree a climber, a creeper is winding about, that is entwining the tree, it is going up. So in the very first line we can see we have two figures of speech used. One is simile and the other is repetition. So like a huge python, that is the creeper and the climber has been compared with a python. So just as a python goes around something and just takes in its we can say twirls and its entwining loops, so similarly the creeper here has taken the tree in its embrace, it's going around it, it has entwined the tree and taken the tree in its twirls. So that's why like a python going round and round, and this round and round, the word itself has been repeated twice, so that's why this is an example of repetition. So the rugged trunk indented deep with scars. Now the trunk is all rugged, jagged, uneven surface, deep with scars, as if lots of marks and scratches are there, like as people write with stones and such. So perhaps when they were children, when they were small kids, perhaps they also made some marks on it. So the tree is all, the surface is all uneven and rugged and jagged. It has marks on it, it has scratches on it, and up to its very summit near the stars. So near the stars is actually what? Hyperbole or exaggeration. Yes. So hyperbole or exaggeration is like presenting something as better or greater than its actual state, or like over saying too much about something, that is exaggeration or hyperbole. Yes, the word is pronounced as hyperbole, not hyperbole, because generally you might have heard people speaking or pronouncing this word in this way, hyperbole, but exactly it is not so, and you won't find this in any dictionary. So it is hyperbole, or as you may call, pronounce it as say it as exaggeration or overstatement. So what? Up to its very summit. Summit is pinnacle, the apex, the top of the tree, near the stars. So can a creeper or climber reach near the stars? No. So this is saying too much about that, and that's why I said here the poet has used exaggeration. So the creeper seems to be climbing up to the summit of the tree, up to reaching to the top of the tree, and as if perhaps like the tree is so high, the top of the tree is so at such a height, as if it seems that the climber has reached the pinnacle, or it is about to reach the stars in the sky. So a creeper climbs, in whose embraces bound no other tree could live. So the tree is so tough. If there had been some other tree, perhaps it would not be able to survive or sustain itself in the tight embrace of the creeper. But here, Casuarina is so tough and so strong that even in the tight embrace of that creeper, it survives and sustains itself, it lives even in that adverse situation. If there had been any other tree, perhaps it would not survive that a tough situation or would not be, we can say, alive in the tight embrace of the creeper. And now the poet says, but gallantly the giant wears the scarf. Now see, again we have a comparison here. Scarf. So this is an example of metaphor. So, but gallantly the giant wears the scarf. So this giant is here the tree, and scarf is that creeper. So the creeper has been compared with a scarf, and this is a direct comparison without any use of like or as. So no crutch words. So we can say the scarf, the comparison of the creeper with the scarf is an example of metaphor. So gallantly is what? Bravely. So gallantly the giant wears the scarf. It means this scarf, this creeper has been worn in a very valiant or in a very brave manner. The tree is not at all afraid in the tight embrace of the creeper, is not at all stifled or strangulated in the tight embrace of this creeper. The tree lives tough and strong even in the presence of this creeper. And flowers are hung, and flowers are hung in crimson clusters, all the boughs among. So the flowers are hung in crimson clusters. So crimson clusters, we can say it's an example of alliteration. It's an example of alliteration. So the flowers are hung in crimson clusters, all the boughs among. So all the flowers are there in clusters, the bunches of flowers are hanging there on the branches, boughs. Boughs means branches. So the flowers are hanging there about on the branches, whereon all day are gathered bird and bee. So the bees swarm over and hover over these flowers on these branches and boughs. Like the branches are spreading, the flowers are hanging there on those branches. There are clusters and bunches of those flowers, and the birds and bees actually, as they as they feed on these flowers, so they just hover, or we can say they swarm around these flowers. They sit on the boughs and branches to the bees to sip the nectar of these flowers, the birds to feed on these flowers. They come about and sit there. And oft at night the garden overflows with one sweet song that seems to have no close. So oft, that is often. So often at night the garden overflows with one sweet song that seems to have no close. That means in the night when all sleep, there we find, we feel what some song is overflowing in the garden, as if it is like overbrimmed with some song. The song seems to be like just prevailing there in the garden. So that's what the poet is trying to say. Oft, that is often. Often at night, the garden, night when all are slept, when people are not there out in the garden, when it's all dark, with one sweet song, it seems that the song will never cease. It will go on just flowing, and it will it will never stop. It is as if ceaseless or non-stopping. Sung darklings from our tree while men repose. So men repose. Repose is rest. So while men rest, recline. So sung darkling So in the darkness, different birds, nightingale or such, they sing their song, and it just flows over there in the garden. The whole garden brims with the song. It prevails there in the garden. So such is the atmosphere of the garden in the night. While men repose, while people take rest or are in their bed and they sleep. When first my casement, now this part, the first part was about the Casuarina tree in the night, in the darkness. It's about that. So now it is about the morning time. So different parts of the day, how the Casuarina tree appears in different time of the day. During night, what is the scene there around the tree, and during morning, what is the scene. So she has made a very picturesque description. As we can see, the creeper going round and round, the birds and bees hovering over the flowers. So we can really claim or say that the visual imagery is quite perfect and very beautiful here. And now in the second part, when first my casement is wide open thrown. So it's about the morning time, as I said. So when my window, casement is window. So when the window is wide open thrown, when she opens the window at dawn. So this dawn, D-A-W-N, dawn is early morning time, you know that. My eyes delighted on it rests. I feel really quite delighted. I feel really quite happy. We can say delectable when I feel very glad when I see the sight outside the window. Sometimes and most in winter, on its crest a grey baboon sits statue-like alone. So especially in winter time, what she sees that on the top of the tree, crest, that is the top of the tree, a baboon, a monkey sits statue-like. So again simile, I should say, sits statue-like. So sits statue-like. So here you can see the consonant sound has been repeated. Moreover, it has been compared with a statue. So simile is there, and along with simile, alliteration is also there. So in winter season, especially in the morning time, she has often seen a grey baboon, a monkey sitting on the top of the tree, and as if a statue, it's like motionless, sitting there on the top, as if it is not some living being, as if a statue has been put there on the top of the tree. It sits in that manner, watching the sunrise. So it like as if mesmerized, as if enchanted by the scene of sunrise, the baboon sits and watches the scene, while on lower boughs his puny offspring leaps about and play. So on the lower boughs, on the lower branches, puny, that is small. So the small monkeys, they leap about, they just, we can say, jump here and there, and they can also be seen along with that parent baboon, along with the parent monkey. The other small monkeys, the small baboons, are also seen just sleeping and frogging and just hopping here and there, jumping here and there, playing. And far and near, kokilas hail the day. So hail is to welcome. So far and near, kokilas hail the day. So in that morning sunrise time, the kokilas, the koils seem to be hailing or welcoming the day with their beautiful song, with their sweet voice, melodious voice. They seem to be hailing or welcoming or greeting the day, and to their pastures wend our sleepy cows. So as it is morning time, the cows the cattle actually have got up, but they are still sleepy, but they are going for their breakfast. So when there are sleepy cows, the scene has been brought out in a very perfect manner. The cows moving in a herd to the pastures, to the meadows, to have their breakfast, to graze on the land, on the grasses. So, and in the shadow on the broad tank cast by that or tree, so beautiful and vast. So by the side of the tree there is a tank, and in that tank there are some flowers. So in the shadow on the broad tank cast by that or tree. Why or tree? Greyish tree covered with, we can say, dewdrops and snowflakes. So that's why or tree, denoting the dullness and aging of the tree. It shows that. So beautiful and vast, the water lilies spring. So in the tank there are those lily flowers. Water lilies have just, we can say, bloomed there. So they are blooming there in the tank, in that water, and like snow and mast, and they seem to be what covered with snow. It seems as if snow has covered them, and mast is covered. So it seems as if snow has covered them. They are all covered with snow. So such those flowers, the water lilies, as they are white in color. So it seems like that the tank which is there near the tree, and there in that tank there are water lilies. They have just sprung up, we can say. They have blossomed there in the tank, and they seem like what covered with snow. All they are so white, so they seem like so covered with snow. And the scene is all beautiful, as we can say. To explain it more, in the shadow, what's the shadow? Shadow of the tree on the broad tank cast. Tank is all that broad one, by that or tree, so that greyish tree, white, covered with dewdrops and snow. So beautiful and vast, the water lilies spring. So the water lilies are springing up there in the tank. They are all blooming there like snow and mast, and as they are all white, so it seems as if they are covered with snow. It seems so, but not because of its magnificence. Dearest, the Casuarina to my soul. So it's not that it is so magnificent, it is so huge, that is the reason that it is so dear to me. Of course, no, that is not the reason. Its magnificence, its splendor, its huge and vast appearance, that is not the reason that the tree is so dear or so loving to me. Beneath it we have played. Years may roll. Though years may roll, O sweet companions, loved with love intense. So the reason is something else. The reason is that beneath this tree we have played. And who this we is? The we is the poet, her brother and her sister. So she is talking of her brother and sister, that we played again under the shade of this tree. We played in the shade of this tree. We played under this tree. I means the poet, her brother and her sister, and they were her companions there under the tree, and that's why she says the tree is dear to her. So it's not the glory of, it's not the magnificence, it's not the splendor of the tree. The reason is that she had played there under the tree with her brother and her sister. So her memories are connected with the tree. The tree comes up with her brother and sister. The images of her brother and sister comes to her mind. She thinks, or she is, we can say, reminded of the days she passed there, she spent there with her brother and sister, and that is the reason the tree is so dear to the poet. So, oh sweet companion, she is addressing, so apostrophe we can say as they are no more. So it is the use of apostrophe, and apostrophe is just like personification. So just as when we address in personification, we don't address, we treat some non-living thing as living, we give humanly qualities to non-living things or abstract ideas, and here in apostrophe we address the non-living things or the things which are abstract or absent. So here her brother and sister have died, they are no more, and she is just remembering and addressing them, oh sweet companions. So here we can say that the poet has used apostrophe. Loved with love intense, alliteration, that she loved them intensely, she loved them very much, they were very much dear to her, and that is the reason the tree is so dear to her as well. For your sake shall the tree be ever dear. It's not because of the huge appearance, that glorious appearance of the tree. For your sake, my brother and sister, for your sake, it means it is because of her brother and sister that the tree will be ever dear to the poet. And blent with your images, it shall arise in memory, till the hot tears blind my eyes. So whenever I think of this tree, it will come up with your images, like the images of her brother Abju and Aru. So blend with your images, it shall arise. So whenever she thinks of the tree, the images of her brother and sister just automatically emerges in her memory, in her heart. So that they are all connected. She, her brother, her sister, and the tree, they are all connected. So in a way, the tree is a connecting link between her present and her past, between her brother and she herself, between she and her sister. So it's a link, it's a connecting link. And so in that way, I should say the poem is quite personal, quite subjective, because she has associated this tree with her past, with herself, with her memories, with her brother. So in that sense, the poet is quite subjective, though there is an objective description of this tree in the earlier part. But from objective, this poem is moving on to subjective one, and you can quite well understand this thing here. So blend with your images, it shall arise in memory till the hot tears blind my eyes. So when she is reminded of her brother and sister, the tears start falling from her eyes. She is full of, we can say, emotion. She gets emotional, she gets very sentimental, her eyes become full of tears, and the tears start falling down from her eyes. So it is full of, we can say, reminiscence, that she is is remembering. She is remembering her brother and sister. And what is the dirge like murmur? Dirge is funeral song. Dirge is funeral song, and so the poet is saying, what is the dirge like murmur that I hear, like the sea breaking on a shingle beach? So dirge like murmur, like the sea breaking on a shingle beach. So these are examples of simile. Very beautifully she has compared the rustling of leaves there, in that garden, the murmuring of the tree with a dirge. So as I said, dirge is a funeral song. So what is the dirge-like murmur? So the trees, when the leaves rustle, they produce a kind of that murmuring or whispering, and that she has compared with a funeral song here. Like the sea breaking on a shingle beach. So just as when the waves come and they just strike against the beach, against the shingles there, the pebbles there on the beach, they make a certain sound, we can say rumbling and rustling sound. So here she is comparing that with a funeral song. So what is that? That happily it is the tree's lament, an eerie speech. So then she realizes, then she feels, oh, it is that lament of the tree, that the tree is wailing, the tree is weeping, the tree is crying and wailing and lamenting. That strange speech, that how strangely the tree is weeping for them, the tree itself is crying. So it's an eerie speech, a strange speech that haply to the unknown land may reach. So perhaps we can say, fortunately, perhaps it will reach to that unknown land. So that unknown, she has used happily here, and happily, perhaps fortunately, by chance I should say, by chance, luckily. So perhaps this strange speech, this lament of the tree is weeping for them, the tree is crying for them. So perhaps this strange speech of this tree will reach the unknown land. And unknown land is what heaven, as we call it, because it has no existence on the maps, on the globe. But yes, in our spirituality, in our we can say mythologies, we have these two places existing, heaven and hell. So perhaps this speech, this lament will reach Aru and Abju in those unknown lands, in the heaven where they are. That is what she is wishing or thinking here. Unknown yet well known to the eye of faith. So what? It might be unknown, like heaven is unknown, nobody knows where it is, where it exists, only it's in our imagination. It is a fantasy, just in, it exists only in our fancies or imaginations. So unknown yet well known to the eye of faith, but they are in our faith, they are in our imagination. We believe, it is in our beliefs that yes, heaven is there. So it may be unknown in reality, perhaps that in this material world they have no existence, so they have no materiality, no physicality, but well known to the eye of faith that they are safe and secure there in heaven. And the song of this murmur, this lament of the tree will definitely reach that unknown land. Oh, I have heard that wail far, far away. Repeat. The word has been repeated here, and so repetition has been used. So the poet says that yes, I have heard that cry far, far away, because we were discussed here earlier, and I told you that the poet traveled abroad quite early in her life. She lived in France, she lived in England, she studied there, she knew French and English both, and she translated some works from French works in English as well. So she is saying that I have heard that cry far, far away, when she had been there abroad, whether in France or England or some other places of Italy or so. But even there she heard those wail, she heard those cries. She could feel the tree, Casuarina tree, crying and wailing over her brother and sister and the absence of the poet as well. So heard that wail far, far away in distant lands by many a sheltered bay. So by many a sheltered bay, that near some bays or some lakes, she heard in distant lands wherever she had been, as I said, France, England or Italy or so, when slumbered in his cave the water wraith and the waves gently kissed the classic shore. So when all was slumbering, that is sleeping, slumbered in her cave, in his cave. So here what there is personification in his cave, the water wraith. Now what is that water wraith? Now here this water wraith is nothing but what? The water, spirit of water has been personified as if sea without any turbulence, without any upheaval, no tide, no strong waves. So when this water wraith slumbered, that is slept, it means when there had been no turbulence or upheaval in the water, when there had been no strong tides, and waves gently kissed, when there were only rippling waves, gently moving waves, seem like kissing the shores. So again, this too is a personification, like waves cannot kiss, so here the waves are kissing. So when the waves very slowly moving to the beach, very gently moving, and just that means the poet is trying to say that just rippling waves, when the waves, rippling waves were there, only no noise or no boisterousness or no tumult was there, no uproar was there. So in that silent atmosphere, in that very serene and sober atmosphere, she heard the cry of that Casuarina tree far, far away from Calcutta, in the distant lands where she had been when the water wraith, the spirit of water was slumbering, sleeping, when the waves were kissing gently, when the atmosphere was all calm and cool and tranquil. Then even in such an atmosphere, she heard the cries of the Casuarina tree of France or Italy beneath the moon. So here, what is this classic shore of France or Italy, where whether she had been in France or she had been in Italy, but she heard this: beneath the moon, when earth lay tranced in a dreamless swoon. So when earth was in a trance, in a sleepy state, in a drowsy state, all we can say in a swoon. Swoon is unconscious state. So under the light of the moon, when earth lay all unconscious, earth lay all silent in it, as if in stupor. So in such an atmosphere, in such a cool atmosphere, in such a calm atmosphere, in such a serene atmosphere, she heard the eerie speech, she heard the wail, she heard the cries of the Casuarina tree, and every time the music rose, before my inner vision rose a form sublime. And whenever she heard that music, whenever she listened to the music in the core of her heart, so along with that music rose the form sublime, rose that exquisite, that excellent, that sublime, that grand, that majestic form, and whose form it is? The form of course, the Casuarina tree. That the Casuarina tree would appear magnificent in her vision. That Casuarina tree would come up so full in its glory in her inner vision. And see, she is explaining now thy form, O tree, as in my happy prime. So again apostrophe, she is addressing the tree and saying that yes, it is the form of nobody else, no one else but your form, thy form of tree, O tree, that yes, I think of you, your image comes in my eyes, in my inner vision, as in my happy prime, when I had or I spent a happy time under you in the shade of the tree with my brother and sister. So that image, that how happy it was with my brother and sister, so that image, that happy time that comes up in my mind. I saw thee in my own loved native clime, when I saw you in my own native atmosphere, in my own native land. So clime generally we use for climate, so here it is simply that atmosphere, that native place, that native land. So yes, that your image that comes in my mind, it just emerges in my mind when I think of my brother and sister. So when the music rises in my heart, along with that music, when I think of all that, it comes up in my mind, and along with that your image, that glorious image of the tree, emerges in the poet's heart and mind. Therefore I fain would consecrate a lay unto thy honor. And so therefore happily, fain, she is saying, fain means happily. So therefore happily I would like to compose, consecrate, that means doing some holy job. So here she is wishing to compose a song for the tree. So there she is saying, therefore happily I would like to compose a song to your honor, unto thy honor, that is to your honor, that means to honor you, to respect you. I would really like to compose a song, tree, beloved of those who now in blessed sleep for a repose. So the tree that was beloved, of those, that is her brother and sister, they too loved this tree, they too loved this Casuarina tree. So beloved of those now who are reposing, resting in heaven there. So now those who are resting, reposing in the heaven, and you were beloved of those, so to your honor, to honor you, to respect you, I would like to compose a song, consecrate a song. Lay means song. They dearer than life to me, alas, were they. So the poet is trying to say that they, my brother and sister, they were dearer than life to me. I really loved them. Anything else, I loved them more than anything else in this world. Even more than life, they were dear to me. They were so, like I loved them so much. Mayest thou be numbered. Mayest thou be numbered when my days are done with deathless trees. So now the poet is wishing. The poet is trying to immortalize the Casuarina tree, and she is saying that mayest thou be numbered when my days are done. That means when I am no more, when I die, may that I wish you be numbered, you be included with deathless trees, that you be counted or you be taken into the list of those deathless trees. So here the deathless trees are the trees of Borrowdale, as I told you in the beginning, that Wordsworth wrote about the trees of Borrowdale, the valley there, and the yew and elm trees, and since then the trees have become immortal. So the poem, his description or his inclusion of those trees in his poem made them immortal. So similarly, the poet is wishing that she would like to immortalize this Casuarina tree. So when I am no more, when I die, I wish that you should be included in those deathless trees, that you should also be immortalized. You should also become timeless, like those in Borodale, under whose awful branches lingered pale. Fear, trembling, hope, and death the skeleton, and time the shadow. So, what does this mean? So, just as the trees in Borodale, because before that, until and unless Wordsworth wrote about them, they remained in, they lived in obscurity, and they just lagged in anonymity, but after that, they have become immortalized and well known in the world. So, just as under whose branches even fear doesn't exist, trembling hope, that is uncertain hope, there is no uncertainty about hope, death the skeleton, death which makes everybody or turns everybody into skeleton, time the shadow, time which is abstract, all these have no existence there before those trees. They linger pale, they actually become what insignificant and useless and futile. Their time has no importance. Time just we can say stops there. There is no fear, there is no uncertainty. Even death is no more there, because they are timeless. They are timeless. They have become immortal. So similarly, just as the trees in Borodale have become immortal, I would like you to be immortal, that you should be counted among such trees, you should live forever. And though weak the verse that would thy beauty feign. So the poet now says that though my verse, this poem that I have written, this verse may be weak, this may not be a very profound or very strong one, perhaps it may be a weak song or poem, oh fain rehearse, may love defend tree from oblivion's curse. So what? But happily I would like to say that my love for you would save you from oblivion's curse. That means you would not be forgotten, you would not be relegated to a corner. I feel, I say, I happily try to do this, that my love for you, I really love you greatly, I really love you too much. On though the verse, the poem that I have written may be a weak one, but my love is not at all weak, it is very strong. And so my love for you will save you from oblivion's curse. That means you would not be relegated to some corner, you would not be forgotten, you would be remembered for years to come, forever and ever and ever. So that is how the poet has really made the tree immortal. That is how Toru Dutt has made this tree timeless through this poem, like Wordsworth did for the trees in Borodale. So I hope the poem is quite clear to you. So to know more, to clear your doubts, to ask your queries, you can just write in the comment box, and I'll definitely reply to your comments. If there are any queries, I'll definitely answer those queries. And for more such poems, so though the other poems have already been uploaded, you can search by the name of those poems, you'll find those poems on the channel. Most of the poems have been uploaded, some of the poems have been uploaded, and remaining poem I'll soon upload on the channel. And for those poems, just stay tuned and keep watching, keep coming over to the channel, try searching, and you will find all your poems and all your queries answered. So till then, thank you very much.